Week 2, data flow, innit? At some point, we've got to start trying to pull the data in. What are we going to do? How do we actually get what we need into a model so that we can get all the report content out from the model? What's the plan? Alright everyone, welcome along. Weekend work, eh? So, last week we had a look, didn't we, at how we started out. What's the first thing, the introduction as it were, to the whole journey? And it's always going to be around that consultancy piece, isn't it? The actual engage, shape, agree structure. We went through, we talked about it, getting the idea that a schema and how it's going to be needs to be based on your dimensions and your facts. And that's something you have to be thinking through. And a consultant can really help steer those conversations. They can help you navigate the minefield that is your relationships. So have you got one-to-one relationships, one-to-many relationships, or the dreaded many-to-many? Now, of course, in our data set, we've got a many-to-many, so we're going to have to use a bridge table. So what are we going to do now in week 2 when we're looking at what data flows? So as we're proceeding through with our data flows and we're starting to piece them together, what we'll have to do is understand what's the point, what's it all about, why are we doing it this way for our Power BI content. So the main thing we're going to do is we're going to build today our latest results data flow, okay? And that's going to pull through an initial template. That's the key bit. How can we take something connected to the web page, build a table of data out of it, and then start to think about being able to pull that together into a big Power BI report pack? And believe it or not, it all starts with the initial results, okay? So what that's going to give us is that pull of how we get a single result set in, okay? From there, we can clone next week and we'll do the whole piece where we actually build the weekly results and then clone it across to be a package of results that will allow us to then have a unit to build our report pack against however many results our event has, okay? Given the scale and the way that it works, the fewer results you've got, brilliant, because you don't want to be there too long. But this will work if you've got 500 plus events that you've had, or 500 runnings of your event in Parkrun. The caveat, the big piece around this is you have to have a Power BI Pro account. One Power BI Pro account is needed to be able to establish that data set, build it up in data flows, and then share it and publish it to the web so that everyone in the world can look at your genius Power BI report pack. Right? It's a bit of a worry, but yeah. Looking at it, in theory, there are some things you could do if you've got saying, well, I've got nothing, I've got no Power BI packs. In theory, you could replicate some of this work in Excel and do it in an Excel format and then use something else to collate all your Excel spreadsheets together. Right? That will work. So, but it's a bit messy, but I think it would work. You might be able to get away with it on a Power BI free, but I'm pretty sure with free you can't publish to the web. So, you know, it's up to you. Okay, I'd recommend having a Power BI Pro at least. Premium premium per person or premium capacity if you're really posh and fancy. Right, will also work. So what are we going to do? How are we going to build this? How about we cut on over into Power BI desktop and we'll have a look and we'll talk through some of the stuff we've got to do. Champion. So here we are, right? That there internet. Okay. This here is the latest results for Jesmond Dean Parkrun. Okay. It's a simple page, tells you what's going on, the positions people came through, did they have a barcode so they got to finish in time, all those kind of nice things. Okay. It's a nice, simple web page. You've got some nuances with it because you've got like clubs in here that we can see for people how many times they've done Parkrun, all sorts of other things like categories. All that information is great to be able to pull it in. So what's the right thing to do? With so many of these things, start with the URL, right? So I'm going to copy the URL. So I've highlighted it. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to click copy. Okay. And I've got a Power BI, blank Power BI report page here. So I'm going to choose to get data. And then we're going to pick, we want to get data from the web. Okay. Now, what a lot of you are going to be saying is, well, hang on. No, man. Right? You said you were making a data flow. What are we doing in Power BI? Power BI desktop, sorry. Right? Power BI desktop is where I would always start my data flows. Right? The reason is if you do it in Power BI desktop, you can leverage the resources of your machine that you've got. Right? So even a little laptop, you're going to find you've probably got a bit more resources and horsepower for doing that evaluation, build stuff than you'll have in a true data flow environment. So you'll find it generally is quicker. Okay? There's also some things that Power BI desktop can do that a data flow can't do. One of the biggest ones, and the reason that I find it useful, is function rating is much easier in Power BI desktop, especially if you're leveraging something like an automated pull of Excel spreadsheets or CSV files. So you pull those through, you can write the function, you can go through all those processes, have the function in a data flow. But if you do it in Power BI desktop, you'll find you've got like a sample file, transformation file they call it, right? Which is, what are we doing in the function? Okay. In there, it's dynamic. So if you edit that transform file, it will edit the function. You can't do that in a data flow. Okay, it just doesn't work. So that dynamic piece where you can go in, rewrite the whole function, what it's doing, save yourself time downstream, or upstream, really, upstream, with it, less downstream, yeah. Save yourself time that way, you can't do quickly and easily. So I tend to have a base build that I will use to define a lot of what's going on with me data flows, which is why we're here. Straight away, we've got a great example of that you would not get with a data flow, and that is query from example or page by example with these suggested tables from HTML. You just do not get them right in the web. If we went add table using example, and I went and looked and we went and picked the page based on it, so we could say, well, it's like these. We don't get that. You just don't. It's not there in the whole piece in the data flow. Okay, I'm going to look at these. Let's have a look. Okay, which does one of these give it? You know, is it the raw HTML? It's going to do it, or is it one of these that's probably going to give us a better one? And what we might find is it's one of these that's a little bit better. So we're down here now at table 3. We seem to have got a lot of records, but we've lost the name, haven't we? You know, so we're losing more information now, so it's less likely. So it's probably going to be 2, isn't it? Or is it going to be table? I think it's going to be table, isn't it? So we'll start with table. Okay. I'm going to pick table, and we're going to hit, remember, transform data. Transform that data. There we go. Right. This is where we start. What we have to do. One of the things to check is to see what's actually going on with your code. So what we're going to have to do here is change it. So we can't do web browser content. We have to change it to web content if we're going to get a data flow that will work. Right? Change it. You see, it changes what's happening. Right? Everything else will still work and will still run. But if you were to copy this across into a data flow, you'd find it doesn't work. Okay. So little nuances that you need to know and you need to learn, but once you know them, being able to use them and deploy them into your M script natively, because of course you're learning to be comfortable with your M, you'll find you can do everything you need to do. So what we've got now is we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 columns, haven't we? And we can go through them and see it's promoting it to headers, it's changed the table type or the column type, and we're now starting to get to the point where we've got information in there. right? In here, we can see that we've got, for each of these records, we've got a number of data points in here. We've got the person's name, got how many events they've taken part in, got the gender, we've got the gender finishing position, we've got some club membership information, and then we've got club or category information for them as well. Right. It's interesting to note some of that stuff is also in there. We've got this age group category as well, or age group over here. So what we can do is we can start and we can think through what do we need to pull together for all this to work. Okay. So point number one is going to be, I want to get the person's name out of here. And then we've got a number of park runs that they've done. Okay. So what I'll probably do is we'll split it. So let's split this on the pipe, okay, which is going to give us 3 columns, isn't it? Yeah, so we'll have like 3 lovely columns that we need. So the way we would do this is we'd highlight the column, right click on it, split column by delimiter. And the delimiter I'm going to use is going to be the pipe, each occurrence of it. Is it 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, saying 4. Okay, let's see. See what the 4th column, okay. So we've got 4 columns now. We've got a lovely one here, haven't we? With that number. So their age grade, but it's not consistent, is it? Or is it? So we've got somewhere we don't have it. So that's not worked as well as I'd like. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to change back here. And this is where Power BI is very useful for you and what you want to do. I'm going to pick the leftmost one. So we've split that now. So we now know what we've got is we've got names. We've got a number of park runs that these people have done. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is let's split this where we've got digits coming in. Okay. So what we're going to do is right click on it again, split it, non-digit to digit. Straight away, we've separated it all out, haven't we? Right. So now we know park run runner 1.1 is going to be participant. I'm just thinking, what did we call it in our table before? Did we call them participants? Did we call them something else? People. Okay, so how about we call this person? Right? A person. Got the person there now. That's a good start. So we're getting there. Got the number of events that we've got there. So how about we do another split here? So if we right click on here and we choose to split the column again, this time by digit and non-digit, we end up with this. And now if we highlight this one and we'll go to transform, we're going to go to format and we're going to trim. It's going to remove spaces from either side of it just because we might have spaces in there. So we've now got a nice clean column. Let's call that park runs completed. Okay. This one we can now get rid of. We don't need it. It's like the rubbish that's left. So we've now got male 1. Okay. One of the things I want to do is I want to scroll down a little bit here because I want to check. And here we go. We've got our first woman and it switches to a 1. So this is the gender position, isn't it? So we've got gender there and we've got a position. So let's see, can we split that? Is there a way we can split that? There is. So how about we do a split here by delimiter. Let's pick the leftmost on a space. Click OK. We've now got male. And again, let's do that trim. Okay, so we'll do transform, format, trim, and hopefully we've got no spaces there. If we come here, pick this, you'll see, hopefully we'll see that there's lots of stuff in here. So let's try trimming this as well. We're going to go to Format, trim that, and now it's looking, we've just got the number. So that's right, we've got that. So this is going to be gender position. This is going to be gender. I've got this as well, the club. What I want to do with this, I'm going to try this. Let's see. So if we go here, let's split the column by delimiter again. We want to pick the pipe, don't we? And we're going to pick the rightmost occurrence of it this time. We've just done it with 2 columns. And it's given us this, hasn't it? There's an awful lot of stuff in here, isn't it? Let's try it one more time. Split columns by delimiter. Pick the pipe again. Rightmost occurrence. Okay. And we're getting there now. So we've got this person's a member of the Park Run 50 Club. I want to scroll down. We see here we've got this person's in 100 Club and in the 50 Volunteers Club. So there's more going on to it. Got 2 club memberships potentially in there. So I don't think that's going to be an easy one to piece together. And that's the headache that I'm trying to work through at the moment. Right? I'm going to think on that one for another week, I think. So I'm going to highlight these 2 columns. I'm going to remove them. Okay. What we've got here now is we've got this, which is the same as here, isn't it? So more likely what we need to do is start piecing together some of the logic that's going into this, right? So age group, age grade, and this, we can split that on a number of characters, can't we? Right? Because it's going to be a rarity that you can have somebody who's got over 100 in terms of 100% of the age group, right? But we could maybe find it somewhere else. Can we find it elsewhere? I don't think we can. I did just remove it though, didn't I? All right, so here we are. We've got the age group. Let's split the age group. So we're going to split this, split the column, number of characters, once as far to the right as possible. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's try 16 because it starts with 0. Hit OK. Right? Work that out, no problem. So suddenly what we've got is we've got age category, got age grade, and again what we could do, in fact what we probably should have done before we did this was let's split this column by a number of positions, and let's go once 9, or is it 10? Start with 10, see where that ends up. So 10, yeah. Okay, and we're going to remove that column. Age percent. Got club, and we've got a time. Right, time is a difficult one because they've got other things in there. So we've got PB time in there, we've got first timers, we've got new. All of them seem to have something in text after them though, don't they? Right? So what we would do is we'd have that highlighted. We'd go to transform, add column, from examples, pick from the selection. So it's going to pick from that column what we're going to do. Okay? So if I scroll along here, I'm going to just type is time. Oh, I've already got a column called time, haven't I? Finish time. Okay, so we're going to go through and we'll type a few in, and you'll start to see that it'll start to work out what you should have. Oh, 0001846. Okay, so we'll find ones that are different. So like this one, but we can see as well what it's saying it's going to do. Okay. So this will work for us, won't it? We've got everything in now. 2142, that's there. We can see. I'm going to click OK. Finish time's there. Let's change that to a duration. Okay, all of a sudden that's in, it works. Okay, we've got the errors and therefore the unknowns where we just haven't got something. So we could choose to change the unknowns, couldn't we? So we could right click, choose to transform, sorry, replace errors with 0.0.0.0. Okay. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've now got those put in, right? It's a debate as to whether you want to keep them. In my live report, I have to say I've removed them. I didn't want them. I thought I don't want the missing results. They're not people. I'd rather exclude them. I appreciate purists will feel differently. That's your choice, right? But suddenly we've got this built. This is the base piece of what it needs to be, of what we need. So I'm going to call this latest. Okay. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to the advanced editor and see all the steps. If I go Control A, I can right click and I can copy it. Okay. Now, if we go over to a website, to our Power BI report page, okay, and we go to our workspace, Weekend Work Season 2. Now let's create a data flow. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come through, define new tables. It's going to be a blank query or a blank table. I'm going to click next. I'm going to come up with a blank. I'm going to delete it. Okay, I just need to get into the blanks. I'm going to create a new blank query. So I probably could have just pasted my stuff in here. Paste that in. I'm going to click next. Accept it. Configure the connection. Tell it it's an anonymous connection. Let everything run through and we'll find out if this has worked. Okay. And suddenly I've got a data set, right? And there's things that I wouldn't have been able to do quickly, easily, or simply directly in a data flow. Whereas here, because I've built it in my Power BI report page, Power BI report builder, I can go through, I can use things that I couldn't use here. So if we look in here and see in the add columns, we do now have query by example. We didn't have it. The web page piece, you saw I had to change that to make it work. Okay, all these things come together to make it work for you. So I'm going to do is I'm going to call this latest results. It's going to click. So there we go. Yeah, let's call this latest results and hit save. There's a lot more you can do because you can go through, you can start to build up your query stacks, further improve it. You know, I want to extract out all the club memberships of people. That's still something I want to do. Now the volunteers have changed and they've actually got more volunteer badges as well for people. That's all really important, super important. I figure out how I can get that out of there. So we've got the core bits done now, haven't we? Right? Great job. Hey, what's next? And that's where we're going to come through next week. So what do you reckon then? Okay, using data flows is it's a very powerful way of actually starting to have tables in the Power BI service that can be used and reused. What we've gone through today is the idea of using your Power BI desktop asset and your hardware on your machine to help quickly build and test and validate and work through and say, right, is this going to work? Is this going to work? What do I need to do? So I was able to piece together quite quickly a single import. Okay. And what we can do is we can go through, and I'm sure I will go through and revisit this before we pick up again for week 3. We've now got the idea of how do we pull that latest result through. Okay. Parkrun has the idea of being able to go and browse historic results on the website. But, and this is the big key issue that you find, Parkrun has security features. So if you read too many web pages, like a machine would, it blocks you. So we can't just set this to go and fire off and it goes and reads everything in. So in practice, what I've ended up doing is setting these up as packages of 5. Right, so we pull 5 events at a time from each one. Now that sounds like, oh, that's rubbish. That's going to take a while, isn't it? Right, but realistically, remember, it's a table that's going to exist in my Power BI service. I don't have to reread it constantly. Okay, I read it once, and it's there for most of the things. And I run a refresh periodically on the latest couple or the latest few. And in practice, it's the latest batch of 5 that I run it on. And if things have been updated, we need to update those from historic. So it all works very easily for us to set that up and have it work. And what you can do with your data flows is you can export the schema, and then from that schema, you can import it, update a couple of notes on it, and we'll show you where to put those parameters next week. And suddenly I've got the next 5 done. So for me, in practical terms, when I have to do the next 5, it takes about 10 minutes. It doesn't take a lot to do. There's a couple of other things I could do to make my life even easier, but generally it's not that difficult. And we'll go through and we're going to stick to doing this if you had Pro. Right? You'll notice I'm on Premium. Right? That's fine, but we'll stick to the Pro level stuff for this. So I won't be referencing a data flow from another data flow. You need to have premium capacity to have a data flow be a source of another data flow. We won't do that. We'll do it all in Power BI Desktop, which adds some complexity to it, but I think it's important for you to see that side. Okay. So I hope you're enjoying it. It's nearly the weekend. You know, if you aren't planning to do it and you've got Parkrun nearby, go and volunteer. It'll be fun, right? If you're going to run a Parkrun, great. I hope you have a great time doing it. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great weekend. Ta-da.